What if the reason you keep choosing the wrong partner wasn't because you were broken, but because you were trained to survive in chaos? Today's guest lived through 7 marriages, including being a prison wife, and for decades believed she was the problem. Then a global shutdown forced her to finally listen to the one voice she'd been ignoring, her own. What she discovered changed everything, and once you hear it, you may never look at love, loyalty, or trying harder the same way again. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life health transformational coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the coach's alchemist, on a mission to empower coaches and entrepreneurs to amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head over to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step to building a business where your clients seek you out rather than you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with Jo Ann Fawcett. Jo Ann is a memoirist, survival, and voice for women healing from toxic and narcissistic relationships. After 7 marriages marked by abuse, abandonment, and emotional manipulation, including more than 2 decades as a prison wife, Jo Ann chose a radically different path. Her first memoir, Midlife Magic, chronicles her journey from a conventional suburban life into spiritual awakening, self-reclamation, and mystical discovery. Her second book, The Prince Was Wrong, Leaving the Narcissists Behind, exposes the hidden patterns of narcissistic abuse and emotional traps that keep women stuck. Her third book, Wisdom from My Grandmothers, completes her Toxic to Thriving trilogy. Now living in Portland, Oregon, Jo Ann supports women in reclaiming their voice, power, and joy, and proving that it's never too late to choose yourself and build a life that actually feels like home. Welcome to the show, Jo Ann. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. That was a great intro. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm really excited to hear your story because this is
Thank you.
it's very different. So let me ask you the big question. What's the
Yep.
most significant thing in your opinion as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
I think we need to find our voice and be true to ourselves and just love yourself enough to be as authentic as you can. And, that'll ripple out.
It really does ripple out.
Yeah.
We've we've often think that we have to do everything for everyone and please everyone, and we're trying to get approbation, like confirmation that we are enough, which kind of leads to my first question, which is believing that you're not enough in relationships. And what does that story cost you? And why do you keep repeating it? Let me just back up and ask you to tell us your story, which I
Sure.
think is going to weave that in.
It will. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, the happy little family. There were 4 kids. My dad worked. My mom stayed at home. You watched Leave It to Beaver and all those, fun little shows where you have the picture of the, white picket fence family and the mom's wearing pearls and a dress all day. My mom did not, but um, and then I joined the Mormon church when I was 12. My family did not. But again, and you have this picture of happy families. And, I wanted that. I thought that's what everybody has. And I wanted that. I wanted to meet Mr. Wonderful and get married and have all these children. And I married 7 not Mr. Wonderfuls and only had 1 child. So the universe had other plans for me. And it turns out that's okay. But I felt like I had to get married and especially as a Mormon, you needed to be married
You
to have
have to get married
sex, it's like, and have kids, you weren't
and
supposed
get
to,
sealed.
yeah, that too. I've done that a few times, but, there's no premarital sex technically, there's no living with the person. And they didn't really teach, what are the things, the discussions you need to be having before you get married beyond, are we going to go to church? Sure, okay. But it was like, we didn't talk about how you plan your finances and all these life skills. It just didn't happen. And so I kept getting married thinking, okay, the next one will be better. And because he's a member of the church, and 5 of them were, I just thought, oh, we'll be on the same page. And we never were. And, so that just kept leading me down one rabbit hole after another.
And
And they were perfect, they were perfect men at church. And you get home, it's like, not so perfect. So,
I I live in Idaho. I have lived there for
sorry.
20 years. I'm
Okay.
not Mormon. I've never been Mormon,
But you've been around them.
but I know the church. I've actually had a calling when we lived in Utah for the local ward. I was a Boy Scout
Oh,
leader.
okay. Okay.
Well, my boys were in Boy Scouts because
Mhm.
there are some parts that are really great,
Yes,
but the thing that outsiders looking in see is that there's this wonderful family, and really they are great for families.
they are.
Raising, I've had 5 children, and I lived in California for a long time, and people were like, there's something wrong with you. But in Utah and
It's
Idaho,
normal.
it's just like, yeah, you're just like all the rest of us. So I was like, you fit in. So yeah, the picture that you see on the outside is kind of like Norman Rockwell.
Right.
That's not really how it is. And
No.
the church puts a lot of pressure on you to do stuff that isn't
Yes.
really conducive to family life.
No. Yeah. And that, I will tell people I'm very honest. It's like I left the church not because I had a huge trauma. It's
Mhm.
because all of a sudden I found a new path and I
Mhm.
didn't need the church anymore. So thankfully, I'm not one of those who associate the church with cult trauma or whatever. And I'm happy for that. But I just married several wrong people. So yeah.
And it's easy to do because you want to be part of this community that you're part of, and you're getting the you're wanting the you're enough message, but you
Right.
never get it. Religion never gives you the you're enough, whether it's Mormonism or Christianity or Buddhism or whatever it is. Maybe
Right.
Buddhism does, but
Right. And after husband number two, who was not a Mormon, I
mhm,
had a daughter. So
mhm,
now it's like I have to find a father for my daughter. Turns out I really didn't need to do that because she and I were really happy between marriages, as mom and daughter. And she had a great role model with my sister's husband, her uncle, and she
mhm.
had great grandparents. And, I wish she would have been old enough to tell me, I don't need a dad, Mom. I mean, she wanted a dad, but her dad had died. And, I just kept thinking I needed to fill that void, but she wasn't feeling the void. And, it took us a long time to heal from that, from all the crappy stepfathers. So, yeah.
So you divorced your first husband and your second husband passed?
My second husband committed suicide when our daughter was 5 weeks old. So he had
Wow.
mental health and substance abuse issues, and he kicked me out when I was 7 months pregnant, and then he committed suicide after she was born. Yeah,
That's tough.
it
Husband
was.
number three,
Husband
four,
number
five,
three.
six, and
Yeah,
seven. Did
the
you
rest of
divorce
them are all
them?
divorces. Yeah, and actually,
Okay.
husband number five, we told everybody we were married, but we were never married. So, but that's the way
Easier
it,
that
but
way.
we were together for long enough, and we just because we were members of the church and we weren't going to tell people we didn't get married because we didn't. But anyway, so yes, I've divorced several times and been a widow once. So, and lots of abuse in most all those situations.
So, do you want to talk about, and you were in 20 of those years, you were a prison wife.
I
So,
was.
how did all that work out? Was that
I
another person that wasn't in the church or
Yeah,
somebody that was?
he was not a member of the church. I met him through my roommate when I met him. Her husband was also in prison, and I'd been to prison to visit him with her, and I met some other people. So prison didn't going to prison didn't scare me. Then she came home one day and said, "Oh, I met this really nice guy. He's visiting his mom. He's really smart. He's your age." And I go, "Oh, smart would be a new kind of boyfriend for me. So that would be, I'm happy to meet him." And so we started writing, and then I got approved to visit. And, we just had we had great visits. He's very educated and smart and charming and has great stories. And we just got along really well. And, we courted for 5 years. And then, I think we should probably get married. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? We're both in our 40s. And And people just thought I was crazy, but it's like, well, he's seems to be the best that I've had so far. He's not hitting me and he's not yelling at me because we're in a prison visiting room. Turns out narcissists don't have to yell. They can reduce you to an inch with a very quiet, serious voice, you know. So it's all about the words. There didn't have to be any hitting, and the words are just as powerful and hurtful. So, and that's what he used behind, without anybody else hearing us. So everybody else around him thought he was charming and wonderful. But yeah,
Narcissists are often like that.
yes. Everybody loves them until you're the brunt of their displeasure or disappointment, and like you're not doing what they want. So when it came down to it and we were trying to reconcile our differences, and this is all during the pandemic, and I moved to Portland, it's like fighting in letters. It's like, so that's how I got the whole second book. I have all these quotes from all his letters from him chewing me out. And a good wife should do this, and a good wife she should be grateful for this. It's like, dude, here's how it really was. But they don't want to listen to your truth. So, yeah.
And he's in prison all this time. So,
I met him in prison. We got married in prison. He's still in prison. He has health issues. He will die in prison. And he's been there since the early 80s. So he's been in prison most of his life. Yeah.
so in a lot of ways, though he was your husband, you were single.
Pretty much. Um, I lived in his family home. His mom
Mhm.
passed, and I lived in the family home. But then it became my responsibility to take care of everything regarding to that home. So it's like a
Mhm.
good wife should be grateful that she's got this house to live in. I go, there are no other prison wives in this county, this rich California county that I'm living in. I don't see them at the prison. And it costs a lot of money to live here. And I'm making good money, but I'm not making enough to really do a dent. And your house is falling apart, dude. It's really old and it's falling apart, and I can't keep up with all the repairs. And he just thought I was being a terrible wife because I didn't appreciate this house he had me sitting
That's
in.
like your own little prison.
Yes, and I was, once the pandemic hit, I was working at home all the time because
Hmm.
I'm a bookkeeper, and thankfully I could do that. But I'm at home and I'm listening to the wind and the trees almost falling and cracking, and oh, something else is going wrong. And and it wasn't a tiny house. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny, and it was on a big piece of property. So beautiful part of California.
Where was it?
It was in Marin County,
Uh-huh.
north of
Yep.
San Francisco. So yeah. But prison wives just don't live there unless they, no offense, they live in the poor side of town. Um, and they're not trying to handle all the upkeep for this big house. So that was a real bone of contention, and he always said he was going to get out, and he always said he could provide for me. I go, okay, I'm in my 60s now. I don't see any retirement plans set up. I have to do it myself now. And it's like, I'll be lucky if I can stop working at 90. Well, I'm happy to say that at 71, I'm slowly easing into retirement and releasing some of my clients. So finally. So yeah.
It sounds like Oregon is a good place for you.
Or
Did you write all your books in Oregon?
I,
How did
I,
the book writing
yeah.
part come
It's
along?
it's funny because before the pandemic, one of my bookkeeping clients is an author and like a book coach or book whatever.
Mhm.
And she had come to a networking meeting I was at and said, "Oh, I'm going to be offering this like workshop or a writing group." And I said, "Oh, that could be fun." Because years ago somebody had said I needed to write my story because I was always promoting his work and his writings and things. "Oh, you should write your stories." Like, "Yeah, no, I'm not a writer." And I decided I'm going to go to this group because by then I'd had some UFO experiences and some, magical experiences and paranormal things. And so I started writing about that and about the recovering from the marriages. And I moved, in July of that first pandemic year, and then I finished that book. So I published that book here, and then, the other two books have been written while I've lived here. So, and my daughter lives 6 blocks away, so that's why I moved here. Come move near me, Mom, and be in my quarantine bubble. It's like, okay. And so we've managed to both stay in the same neighborhood. I work from home and she lives and works in the same neighborhood. So it's great.
I love that for you.
Yeah,
And I'm so glad that you have a daughter, that you have
me too.
someone in your life that's been sort of normalish for you, like an
And she's
anchor.
she's a good she's a good mirror. And we've healed our mother-daughter crappy stepfather stuff and we're in a really good place. We're best friends. She's one of my strongest cheerleaders and we're each other's sounding boards and it's what I wish for every mother-daughter relationship. And we do things together, you know.
Mhm.
We'll go on little outings and we meet, a couple times a week for lunch or dinner. So, and we check in every day. So, it's great.
It is great. I
Yeah,
I have lots of children, but my youngest daughter, who I had when I was 44, I'm just really close to her. And
nice.
I love doing stuff with her. I realize that, she's starting out in her life and she's going to have her own adventure, but she's just like one of those so grounded people,
Oh, nice. Nice.
which makes the world a better place.
It does. It does help. It does help.
So, so what were your first red flags that you wish you'd understood earlier and the ones that so many women still are missing?
A lot of it was like, and again, in the Mormon church, the Bible says, men and women are helpmeets. And a lot of men, no offense, take this as the man is in charge. And to me, it means equal partnership. And in the Mormon church, and the women have good leadership roles, but the men are the head of the household. So many men take that way too seriously. So there's no equal partnership. And I'm all for equal partnership now. And I will fight tooth and nail to have that. I'm very transparent in any dating situation I get into. And it's like, that's right. That's right on my dating profile. Um, and so that is a red flag when you don't see that happening. And also, if they talk to you in a way that's very demeaning and, the narcissist is, it always has to be their way. So it's like you can't tell them with any success or with any, you know, you can't tell them, well, you might not be right about that. I'm always right. And I tried to bring up my points to him, the prince. That is his actual prison nickname. So that's why I used it in the title of the book. But you can't tell them. It's like, well, I don't think you're right about that. It's like they get so offended, and it's like, you're just so. It's not like I stopped trying to say that, and towards the end, I was just saying, you're not right about this, and I finally decided to stand up for myself and at least share my concerns. Now, he didn't like any of my concerns, and he didn't try to do anything. Um, and I'm part of a relationship coaching mastermind now. And one of the things they were saying is like, don't try to even tell the other person what they need to do, like to fix things. Like just keep saying, what you need. And you got to give it to yourself, but they're not going to change. All you can do is tell them what you need. And so I was trying to explain this to this person, and he didn't get it, or he would just say, I asked him one time, besides all the good wife should, which just grates me, and it's like, why didn't you want to be more affectionate, or why didn't you want to make out more or whatever? And it's like, well, you should, and this is what he said, like near the very end, it's like, you should have tried to be prettier. And that was his way of, because no offense, it's like, I'm not conceited, but I don't think I'm ugly. But it's like, but I was usually overweight when we were together. And a lot of that is high thyroid and diabetes and, stress.
Stress.
Stress puts the weight right on me. And I'd go right for the comfort food. And my grandma years ago, it's like, Joanne, I can tell you're happy now because you're losing weight. It's like, I go, thanks, grandma, but yeah, you're right. And that's how it's like, and now, I've got my diabetes under control. I'm not even going to the acupuncturist anymore right now for my stress. I walk all the time. I'm not an athlete. I'm not at the gym, but I do walk pretty much every day and I'm happier and the weight is coming off. So, I'm not going to ever be a size two and I don't care. I'm happy with the way I look and feel most days. And, I'm okay with who I am. And I'm not even a size 10. I don't care. But I still think I'm a vibrant person at 71 and attractive. So you should have tried to be prettier. It's like, really? You're in prison, dude. Who else is coming here to be with you? Could you be a little more grateful? No. So, yeah.
No, narcissists don't look at gratitude
No. And
at all. And they know, or they try to project that they know everything.
yes.
And and when you question them, they really don't have the background to back up the knowing everything, because people that really do know a lot, they're usually very curious. So they don't care whether you believe them or not. It's like,
Right, right.
make a difference to me. I,
And it's funny because he and I have a mutual friend, and that mutual friend is out of he's been out of prison for several years,
Mhm.
and we're good friends, and so we talk, and he could see. I mean, he's really good friends with the ex, but he could see through the BS, and he's like, he goes, yeah, your writing is way better than his. And the ex thinks he's this brilliant writer. It's like, yeah, my books have sold. I've published two of his books, and it's like my books have sold more than his. And that was back in the day where it wasn't print on demand, so you had to buy the 1,000 copies that now sit in the garage that are now in the dumpster type of thing. But
Mhm.
it's interesting to have outside people who knew him, way before they knew me, know what he goes, yeah, we just let him talk. It's like, yeah. And I was gonna say, it's like one of the last time I saw him in person was like April of 2023. So it was like right as the divorce papers were getting signed. And I tried to remind him, it's like, I'm a really amazing, a really good person. He rolled his eyes. It's like, oh, you didn't just roll your eyes at me. It's like you're again, I don't need a ton of validation because I know I'm a good person. But to have your partner of 25 years just roll their eyes, it's like, oh, it's very insulting. But, that's his problem. He's still in prison. I'm out here having a great life. So, what can I
I'm
say?
dying to know what is he in prison for?
He's in prison for masterminding a murder that happened in 1982. I don't think he was involved, but he was convicted of masterminding a murder that two kids did. And then supposedly he helped them dump the body and help steal things from the guy.
Mm.
I don't believe that's really how it went down, but that's another story. But yeah. So, first degree murder. So he's always had a life without parole sentence, but a lot of people are getting their life without parole sentences reduced down to life with like 25 to life. So they're starting to come up for parole hearings. But again, he has health issues, and that's not really going to happen for him. So
Yeah, and at this point, having significant health issues and leaving prison would be a death sentence, because you can't take care of yourself. And at least in prison, you've got health benefits,
kind of.
sort of.
I
It's
have,
a life that he knows.
it is a life
25
he
years is a
knows. Yes.
long time.
Well, and he's been there. He was there already in 1982. I didn't meet him till 1997, so he was there like 15 years and had really, gotten in the groove of prison life. It's like he'd been through a lot. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And to this,
Interesting.
I would say to this day, when I'm at activities and because I've been to a lot of UFO conferences because
Hmm.
he did that in the military, and so I used to go speak about what he did. But I go to them now to support my friend who organizes one of them, and it's like, well, how's your husband? I go, well, he hasn't been my husband for a while, so I don't promote him anymore. But it's like
Hmm.
there's like, you divorced him? It's like, why? Because they think he's so wonderful. I go, he was really good at the military stuff, but not so good as a husband, but they just
So,
are amazed that I divorced him. So it's like, well, because you don't know the whole story.
so tell me about the UFO stuff because I'm a big fan. Did you hear Eric Von Donigan died
I did
recently?
hear that.
It was so
Yes.
sad.
I've had several UFO sightings, and I didn't really know much about it until I met this ex.
Hmm.
And, it became apparent that that's what he and his dad were involved with in their military careers. A lot
Hmm.
of it was all top secret stuff, whatever they did. And then a lot of it had to do with space and traveling in space and dealing with non-humans in space on Earth. A lot of that. So I learned the reality of that. I learn the reality of UFOs and non-human creatures that come here and stay here and kidnap people and do bad things and do good things, a lot of good things too. So I've embraced the reality of that.
Hmm.
And because, there's a lot of the universe is huge. There's more than one. It's like it's huge. And to think that nothing else is out there is silly. But so I've had some up close, I've had one really up close and personal sighting, and then I've had other sightings. And so it's like it was really easy for me to talk about that because I do believe in that. And I think understanding about non-human creatures, especially the really friendly ones, I love, and it really goes with my whole, path now because many of them are very spiritual and they want to interact with us. And to me, it's like we're all connected anyway. So
Even then,
yes,
their
them and
consciousness.
yes, they're very conscious, and even the magical practices. I just like it's all connected. So let's all be friends, folks, and let's raise ourselves to their vibration because they're so more advanced and so more conscious than we are. So yeah,
I think that might be coming.
I
I,
do too.
I,
I do too. And there,
I,
there are many of them. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. Now we're on my passion project, but I mean, many of them really want to be visible. Not that they're not visible, but they want to interact with us. They
mhm.
want to be our friends, and they want to, do stuff with us. So,
I wonder, I wonder if Joseph Smith's encounter wasn't with an ET.
yes, it was. And what's interesting is that's what this last ex told me. He goes, yeah, the whole gold plate, the Joseph Smith, he wasn't talking to God. He was talking to an ET. It's like, oh, that makes sense. And
It's
and
really
the
the gods and the whole, lots of planets type
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. And it's like the more I work with a channeling medium and the more I learn through the people I talk to, it's like the spirit world is so different than the Mormon church teaches you. And Jesus is this great teacher. I mean, he was a real person, but it's like he's fishing, he's just talking to people. His plan was never what they said in the Bible, blah, blah, blah. And so it's like I've learned, but yes, I do believe the whole who Joseph Smith saw was definitely not human and not the Christian God. So,
And angels by definition are ETs.
yes.
Just,
Yes.
pointing out the obvious here that most people skip right over. I also wonder if they didn't manipulate the DNA to create humans.
What I've learned, and this was taught by a lovely cat species scientist um, who has come to Earth plenty to do a lot of research,
Mhm.
is that several species, it's not like they helped enhance us. I don't know if that was DNA manipulation, but several of them really wanted to be in control of planet Earth and said, oh, we created humans, we did this and this and this. But it was more like different species have helped us thrive here on Earth along the way, but no one species, created us humans and should be in charge of us. So that's lovely. But and I'm sure, and they have come and helped teach us things. And again, if you look at our technology today, they're still helping us. We're not making all that stuff up by ourselves. And somebody's
It's just,
helping certain people who do spacecraft. They're
yeah.
they're getting their science from somewhere. I know
I
we have
think some
smart
of them
people, but
actually live here
oh yeah. Oh
all the
yeah.
time,
Oh
like in
yeah.
under the water and under the
Exactly.
earth.
There are many species under the water, and there's several species who have bases here. And, I love my favorite, well, one of my favorite species is the species that is shown in Jurassic World, those velociraptors, because that
Mhm.
is a real alien species. They originated here on Earth. They've left the planet. The main part of their empire is off planet, but they have several bases here. But they've been helping the human militaries, especially the US military, since the 50s. So they look scary, but they're really beautiful and they're really smart and they're really family oriented. And so they've helped us. They've been our allies for a long time. So they're pretty cool.
So
I
fascinating.
know.
I could have you back just to talk about this.
Anytime.
Okay, so let me ask you the final question, which is you
Okay.
realized during the pandemic that something was deeply wrong. What was the exact moment you knew that this relationship was never going to change, and how did the truth finally set you free?
Well, the first thing happened right at the beginning of the pandemic, because before the whole shutdown, like right as the shutdown was about to happen, I took a psychic development class, and the closing exercise was, we're going to cut the cord with something that you need to release. And I said, I need to cut the cord on how the relationship currently is. I wasn't even thinking divorce. And
Hmm.
I thought, something needs to change here. And so I cut that energetic cord. And then the pandemic happens, like, oh crap. And then you get settled into, now I got to work from home and change my whole life. But then I started thinking, really looking at, oh, well, what is it? How isn't it working? And so I started looking. That's when I said, oh yeah, my needs are not getting met, are they? And so that's the point that pivoted me into thinking, what needs are not getting met and how can I tell him? And I need to tell him. And so, yes, that spiraled into like 3 years of untangling. But I'm so glad because now I have my life back and I can be what I need to be and I can serve humanity the way I'm meant to. So it's very freeing.
And there is that big exhale
Yeah,
when
it's very freeing.
you come to realize that I'm enough
Yes.
all by myself as a human being. I don't need somebody else to complete me.
No, that doesn't mean I don't want somebody, but I don't need them.
Yeah, want and need are two different
They
things.
they are. They are. So
And
I'm gonna just still be myself. And again, the relationship coach, her premise is you love on yourself enough and you be the best person that you are, and that person's gonna come find you. Stop chasing. It's like, oh, that's what I was doing wrong this time. It's like I keep chasing, I keep looking. Like just relax, Joanne. Do your thing. It's like, oh, okay, cool. They'll find me
yeah,
someday.
and there are more and more people that are really interested in what's happening in the UFO world.
Yeah.
Or you, there's another,
Yeah, I know there is.
I don't, UAP, I think,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, but I have found that, bless them, many of my UFO friends are on a very different political path or belief system than I am. So it's like, huh? So so it's like, huh, okay. Anyway, so it's interesting, but I still go to the conferences for my one friend's conference, and but yes, I do believe in all that, and we do agree on that part. But so it is fascinating, and you know, it's all good.
It is all good. It's
It
just
is.
a big, long adventure.
It is.
So, how can people find you?
I have a website, joannfawcett.com. So all the info about my books is on there. I would love to chat with anybody. I'm happy to be your mentor. Sign. The big thing is right now, sign up for my newsletter because I'm talking about positive messages from all the books and from the upcoming book. The grandmother's book will be out, probably June or July. And so there's a lot of my weekly newsletters are positive messages and then, updates about my book and stuff. And I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. So yeah, but
All the
signing up for my
sources.
newsletter would be great.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us
Oh,
today.
thank
This has
you.
been a
Thank
great
you.
conversation.
Great. I've enjoyed it. So thank you for the great start to my day.
You can learn more about Joanne and find her books and sign up for her newsletter at joannfawcett.com. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to the Coach's Alchemist and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.